So today I want to talk, and I've like planned this out in my head what I'm going to say, and I bet you I'm going to forget and end up just talking about random stuff. Okay, let's start the first place. The first place is that I've taken a break from Instagram for like a week, which for me is a very long time. I never take a break. I mean, when I posted that Yahya was born, people were like, you were on Insta stories yesterday. When did you have the baby? That's like how much of a minimal break I ever take from social media. But this week it got to a point where I felt sick. Every time I opened the app, I felt overwhelmed. I felt anxious. Like, it's my job, so I do use it a lot. And I do follow pages with substance. I do follow pages that are talking about important things, as well as all of the fashion and beauty, because that for me is important and that's part of my job. And recently, every time I open the app, every story I was looking at was an overwhelming amount of information about stuff that's happening in the world. And suddenly this space that I normally escape to when, you know, things are too much because I'm stuck in the house and, I'm with the boys all the time, and it's like a little bit of escapism. Suddenly this space also became very real. I was talking about what's happening in the world, and it was just a little bit scary and a little bit too much. And I've been wondering whether I should do this video, because I wanted to do this video a few weeks ago and I never did. And I was like, nah, like I've got to a point where I don't really share my real feelings on social media because I see it as a way of protecting myself. And even now I'm like, do I really want to make this video? But I think I should. I think there's a lot I need to say, and I feel like a lot of you might be feeling the same, or it might help some of you. So yeah, I think just with everything that's been going on around in the world, lockdown, COVID, everything, everyone's anxiety is heightened. I was in Pakistan until the 17th of March. Lockdown in the UK began on the 24th of March, I want to say. So I was in this little bubble in Pakistan. And I remember one day, like, my dad being like, I think you guys should come back. And me and my cousin sat there and like we laughed, and we were like, our family are worrywarts. So we laughed, and I was like, they're worrying for no reason. My cousin turned around, she was like, Sabina, what if this time something actually happens? And I was like, what's going to happen? We checked. At that time, I think there was about 70,000 people in the world that had COVID. And I was like, nah, it's nothing to worry about. I come home, my mum and my cousin that, me and her had been laughing, got stuck there along with some other people from my family. So my mum, her flights were cancelled 2 or 3 times. One time she was sent back from the airport. It was very, very stressful. My anxiety was very heightened. And then when she came back, I fooled myself into thinking, oh, my mum's back now and I'm okay. But really, I wasn't okay. And I don't think any of us are okay. Like we bury these emotions deep down because there's nothing we can do about this situation, and we kind of have to get on with it. And one of the things that I said the first week we went into lockdown, and I think coming from Pakistan, I had a really good kind of oversight of things. And I was like, we have a roof over our heads, we have heating, we have hot water, we have food. We're so lucky and we're so blessed. And even in lockdown, we're still so much luckier than so many people around the world. And that still stands. Like, my positioning on that hasn't changed, but I think I need to talk about how difficult it's been. And it's okay to feel overwhelmed and upset and shitty, even though we are so lucky and we do have so much. And I feel like that as a backdrop for everything else that's been happening over the last few weeks, it's just made things a lot harder. And I think the whole Black Lives Matter movement has really, really exhausted me, really drained me. And I didn't feel like I could talk about it. I didn't feel like I could talk about what was going on because I'm not black. And I wanted it to be a time for me to listen and take on advice. And I feel like I've taken on so much. I feel like I've learned so much, which is one of the reasons I wanted to make this video, is because there's been a couple of situations in the past which I feel like I handled wrongly. And I've reflected personally, and I thought they're personal situations, so I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't need to share them, but I feel like I should share them. Maybe I should have spoken about them publicly when they happened, and I didn't. But I've spoken to a couple of my friends who've told me, my black blogger friends who've said it's been too much, and they've had to take a break. And I didn't think I would feel like that, but this week I was, with all of that going on and everything that I was feeling about that, and then I start seeing everything about Yemen and just everything with that, and I was like, at a point I was like, I don't know. Like, I just can't. I can't deal with the boys and be at home and be mum and be happy when this is what's going on. And then I woke up on Sunday, I was feeling so drained, woke up on Sunday And of course it's the anniversary of Grenfell Tower, and I was like, that's it. I was like, I can't emotionally deal with processing everything, because I actually care. And I think that's the difference. When you genuinely care, it affects you. And I didn't want to switch off and walk away and bury my head in the sand. But I feel like I have to put my mental health at the forefront, because I have 2 young boys to take care of. If it was just me, it might be slightly different. But I can't afford to be in a space or a place where I'm just down and negative and drained, and then they're not getting the best version of me, or, you know, I'm taking my anger out on them for some reason. So that's why I needed a break. But I mean, I would love to say that I've had a break, my head's clear, but it's not. In reality, probably don't want to use Instagram for another 3 weeks, but it is my job and I can't take that long off. I could, but then I always worry that, again, anxiety. Now I lost my train of thought. But yeah, now I wouldn't say my head is clearer, but now I've thought about things, and I thought I want to make this video. I want to talk about what's been going through my mind, and I've just realised I'm 6.5 minutes in, so this is very rambly. It's going to be a very long video. You might want to pause and go get a drink. But the things that I wanted to talk about, the things that I wanted to address, is that over the last few weeks I have been listening. I've been trying to listen to the black community and to black influencers that I follow and take on what they're saying. And there's so many things that I've learned. And the first one that I think I should probably address is that I was having a conversation with my dad, and he said coloured people, and I said black, and he said, don't say black, it's offensive. And I said, no, black isn't offensive. I've always been taught, don't call people black, it's not nice. But what I've learned is that when you don't acknowledge people by their skin colour, or when you group them and say people of colour, because I'm a person of colour, when you group them and say people of colour, you're saying that you don't see their skin colour, you don't see their struggle, you don't see what they have, the prejudices that they have to face on a daily basis. So that's one thing I've learned. I think if things are used in a derogatory way, so if you use black as though it was a swear word, the same way if you use Paki as though it was a swear word, I think they're offensive. I don't have any problem with someone saying Paki if they're just abbreviating, calling you Pakistani, if that makes sense, and they're not saying it in a rude way. And again, if you're using the term black in a rude way, as a swear word or with a swear word, then it's wrong. But if you're using it to describe somebody's skin colour, then I've learned that that's the correct way to do it. So that's the first thing. But the things that I really wanted to talk to you about, where I feel like I've gone wrong, and I feel like I need to publicly make an apology and address and acknowledge why I went wrong, and maybe hopefully I won't go wrong again, and maybe some of you can take on some of this advice as well, is back in 2017 in December, there was Modest Fashion Week in Dubai, and during the event, I probably didn't even realise that this was happening on social media, but after the event, it was brought to my attention that there was a lack of black representation at the event. There wasn't many black influencers. Actually, there was Halima Aden on the runway as a model, and Manal Chinute. Manal is Ethiopian, so you may not always guess that she's Ethiopian when you look at her, and she doesn't look black. She's absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful, but her ethnicity can be quite ambiguous sometimes. So there was this anger and this uproar on social media that there wasn't enough black influencers at the event. And actually the first post that I saw came from Hudan, and Hudan is a really good friend of mine, and in hindsight I probably should have messaged Hudan and been like, girl, tell me what you're feeling. Because obviously what you post on Instagram, especially when you write something, it's got to be very concise and articulate and to the point. And I'm sure her emotions behind what she wrote, there was so much more depth to it. And as a friend and as an ally and as a sister in Islam, I should have been like, girl, tell me what's wrong. And actually taking that time to understand why she felt that way. I agreed that there was a lack of representation, but actually also I was quite defensive in hindsight. I didn't want to be labelled as a racist. I didn't want to be, I don't know, like, I made it about me rather than it being about the lack of representation. And in hindsight, I probably should have done a live with her or something, and we should have addressed it, you know, and we didn't. And well, actually I did. I spoke about it in my stories, I spoke about it in my posts, and me and Melanie from Hot Hijab, we did a live and we discussed it. And in hindsight, again, Mel has a lot more wisdom. She's in New York, she's in the States, she grew up in Detroit. So her experience with racism and with black people is very different to mine. I think the situation in the UK, and I'm not saying it's not bad, I think the situation in the UK is different. And I think it's different for me as well, because I think South Asians and Desis in the States, I'm not sure if this is 100% correct, but they get in on a points system. So it's like if you have certain academic qualifications, you get in. So they're getting the cream of the crop. They're getting people who have already got money or got status or got education and taking them over. So they are going to do better. Whereas in the UK, the Indian subcontinent was colonised by the British. You know, we worked under the people who then brought us over. And I know my grandparents came with no money, and I know a lot of people's grandparents came to the UK with no money, and it was about building a life. And I think the history with the UK and India is very different to the history with America and India. I think that puts me in a very difficult position in that I'm not white, I don't have white privilege. My narrative is very different as a Desi in the UK to Desis in America. But then I'm not black, so I don't get to speak on that. And it's been a very difficult position that I've been in over the last few weeks of knowing what to say and what to do. And I think that's been one of the things that there's been so many thoughts in my head that's made me feel like kind of I just want to stay away from everything for the moment. But back to Modest Fashion Week. I knew I was going to go off a tangent. Back to Modest Fashion Week. So I did this live with Melanie, and now I look back and I think, did I do that live to talk about the issue? Did I do that live to give people a voice? Did I do that live to help change things? Or did I do that live because I didn't want to be labelled a racist? And I didn't want to feel like a racist, and I thought I'm brown and I can't be racist. And actually, I should have taken that as an opportunity to speak out, because at such a huge event, for there to be 2 black Muslim women that were invited, when I think there was like over 150 influencers invited. And when I say influencer, I don't mean blogger, I mean like just influential people. Like 2 people. That's disgusting. And I didn't feel like that back then. I didn't feel angry, because my thing was, well, do you really want them to invite you just because you're black, just to tick a box? And actually, no. Like, that wasn't the thing. The thing was that in Islam, like, we're all equal. And if we're not giving our black sisters opportunity in that space, what chance have they got in mainstream? Like, and I should have done something about it, and I didn't. And I'm coming here publicly, I'm apologising. I wish I'd spoken out. I think I may even have deleted people's comments back. I delete anything that looks negative. It might even not even be negative, but anything on my Instagram that looks negative, I delete it, because I just don't want to deal with that. I don't, again, it comes to mental health, and, you know, I can't afford for to be in a negative headspace when I have young children to look after. So anything that I feel like is negative, I delete it. And I may have deleted people's comments who were calling me out because I felt like they were coming across rude or abrasive or something like that, but I wasn't understanding their anger. I wasn't understanding how they were feeling, and I feel like that's why these last few weeks have been so amazing for me, because it's just my whole mindset has changed, and I could have just carried on making those changes in real life, talking about stuff on social media, and not publicly acknowledging this or going back. I mean, it was like nearly 3 years ago, but I feel like I need to apologise, and I wish I'd done more. And it gets worse, because 6 months later, I was on another press trip. Same thing. There's a bunch of Muslim influencers, not a single black influencer. And again, I responded the same way. I sat there with some of the other girls, and it was their very first press trip, and they were getting nasty comments from followers and from people. And, you know, I sat down and was like, oh yeah, it's not fair. It's your first press trip. Like, you shouldn't have to feel like you should have spoken up. I should have spoken up. I'd been on plenty of press trips. I knew I knew that I have weight in this industry, and that I can speak and I can say something. And I didn't, because I don't even know why. It's not that I was scared of the repercussions. Maybe I didn't see it as a big deal, because it didn't affect me the way it affects my black influencer friends. And I didn't speak out, and I felt a bit hurt and a bit offended that people were calling me out as, like, you know, being racist or all of these things. And it's like, it wasn't about me. it should have been about the bigger picture. It should have been, I should have spoken up, and I didn't. And again, for that, I'm sorry. So when this whole movement happened online 2 weeks ago, and we had Blackout Tuesday, and then the following day, Amina decided to announce that she was removing her scarf, which is completely her choice. I'm not going to comment on that. That's a topic for another day. I commented on her picture to say, it's your choice, whatever, whatever. I just wish you'd chosen a better time. I felt like it was inappropriate for an influencer of her status and her following and her presence within the South Asian community and the Muslim community to announce something that was very huge at a time where we should have been listening to our black brothers and sisters. And I still get pissed off when I think about it. She deleted my comment, she blocked me. Fair enough, her choice. But I've had so many DMs and so many comments about it, and I'm having to delete the comments, I'm having to ignore the DMs. I don't like drama. I'm not here for clout, I'm not here for, this is my job. You know, I don't want people coming to my page because they're like, oh yeah, let's see what's going on. I want people coming to my page because they want beauty and fashion advice. You know, I'd rather have less people that are coming for that specific reason than have loads of people coming for drama. I'm not about drama, especially not on social media. So it's something that I didn't speak about, and I was just like, I'm not going to speak about any of it. It's just a bit, I'm going to step back. And the reason that I'm talking about it is because I made those two mistakes, and I'm stepping up and I'm publicly apologising, and I should have done something. And then when this happened, I felt like I could do something, and I did do something. But if I'm going to do it, I need to do it properly, do it with conviction. And the thing is, it's so much easier for me as a fellow South Asian to call out a South Asian girl for something that I think she's done wrong than it is for a black girl. And that's the whole point of this movement. It's like the black community want everybody else to stand up and speak for them, because we haven't been so far. I've also had a lot of DMs saying, when are you going to remove your scarf? Are you going to be next? You're going to take your hijab off? I don't need that either. It's literally been one thing after another draining me over the last few weeks. Then another incident happened, which, I don't know, it might not sound like a big deal to some people, but it really bothered me. So a PR that I know that I met last year, we met for coffee, like, you know, spent like 3 hours together, really nice woman, posted a picture on her page, and she used the hashtag All Lives Matter as well as Black Lives Matter. Like it was hashtag All Lives Matter, hashtag Black Lives Matter. And somebody commented and was like, why are you using that hashtag? And her response was, to keep a balance. And at that point I thought, oh my God, like how? I didn't even want to entertain it, because I thought, if after everything that you've seen on social media, you do not realise that you shouldn't be saying that, if everything that's out there online hasn't been enough to change your mind and to educate you, then why am I going to waste my time on you? So I was like, nah, leave her. Later on, saw that she deleted the post, so I didn't say anything. Then, about 3 days later, she posted a video on her stories, and the video was of 5 young black guys beating up a police officer. And she wrote something like, oh, after seeing all of the horrible stuff online over the last 2 weeks, this is the final straw. You know, and what's worse is that they're hitting the female police officer as well. So she was acting like she'd been really empathetic with all the whole Black Lives Movement, everything she'd seen online. But the only, I'm going to swear again, the only thing she'd posted was a group of young black boys beating up a police officer. I'm like, stop being so fake. You clearly are on one side of the fence. Anyways, unfollowed her, put a little post up on my stories about how people pretend that they're on your side when they're actually being fake, and they're not, you know, they are very racist and they just scared to admit it. And then I got a little DM, which I haven't opened. I should actually open it on camera, but then you guys will all know who it is. She definitely knows it's her. She sent me a DM, I haven't opened it yet, so I don't know what the whole message says, but the beginning bit that I read, and it said, oh Han, I'm really sorry, I hope your story's not about, like, and obviously I don't know what the rest says, but I'm like, why do you care what I think? Why do you care, like, why are you apologising to me for calling you out? And it's really bothered me, because if I can get on so well with someone and they be so nice to my face, and really deep down they feel a certain way, it's like, who can you trust? Who can you be real around? Who can you actually voice your opinions around? Who is going to say one thing to your face but actually take you off their PR list behind your back? You know, I think that's one of the reasons so many people are scared, because they're worried that the people around them, whether it's in their workplace, in their families, in their friendship circles, will suddenly start treating them differently if they're vocal about how they feel. And it's one of the reasons I think I've not always been very vocal, is that so many times when I go to an event or I turn up at places, I'm the only coloured person in the room, like the darkest person in the room, you know. And when you're sat at a table, on the end of the table, you know, maybe with another hijabi or another brown girl, or totally on your own, and the whole table is full of white girls and white PRs, it's scary to see, because you don't want to lose the seat at the table. And again, not for my own gain, not for my own ego, but I'm like, let me secure my seat at the table first before I speak out. And I feel like now I'm at a position where I can speak out, whereas before I was too scared of what I had to lose, and now I'm like, what I have to gain in the bigger picture is so much more important. 23 minutes. This is going to be a nightmare to edit. This is going to be a nightmare to edit. Anyways, I wanted to make this video just to publicly apologise, just to kind of address a couple of issues. And I think the final point that I want to make is that as a human being, or as an influencer, it's very hard for me to get a balance. My platform is about fashion and beauty and mum stuff, but obviously there's things that are important to me that I want to talk about, and there's things that are important in general that I should be talking about. But I'm not a journalist and I'm not an activist. And it's very hard for me, like when I get a DM from someone and they're like, oh, like my brother's got cancer and he needs his treatment, and like, can you share my page? And I'm like, if that was my brother and I was so desperate and like someone just ignored my message, how would I feel? But then on the flip side, if I shared that page, I'm going to get another message tomorrow morning for another page. And it's like, if I'm constantly sharing charity pages or fundraising pages or political issues, then it really changes what my whole platform is about, you know. And this is my job, this is my business, so I can't change that. But then at the back of my head, I'm like, what if God's given you this platform and God's given you this voice and this presence to actually do something and talk about something substantial, and not just make it your business, but like try and do more good with it. And that's like an internal dilemma that I have all the time, constantly. And I definitely feel like I'm not doing enough, and I definitely feel like I'm failing on using what God's given me for everyone's benefit as opposed to just my benefit. But then I'm like, okay, I have to look at it as a business and make decisions that a business would make. And it just becomes very difficult internally. I think the internal conflict isn't getting resolved, and it doesn't help that my mind and my emotions have been through so much because of COVID, because of the Black Lives Matter movement, because of everything that I see going on in Yemen, and you know, there's just so much going on, and I just feel like my head is all over the place. And I still have to wake up at like 6:30 in the morning and be like, Noah, what would you like for breakfast today? So, you probably understand why I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. Part of the reason I wanted to make this video is because I felt like it might help to offload. And now I'm like, am I even more confused than I was when I made the video? I like making content. I love creating content. I love my job. But I like making positive content. So it's very difficult for me to share what's really happening in the world, because we do live in an ugly world full of a lot of hate and a lot of hurt. And I think moving forward, my aim is to just keep a good balance and be talking about things that are substantial and are important. But the reason that I wanted to make this video is because I know a lot of my audience are Indian, Pakistani, Bengali, South Asian or Muslim, and I feel like I wanted to address the Black Lives Matter issue within these communities. And I felt like I don't want to repeat what's on social media. You guys already know the stuff. I don't need to talk to you about George Floyd or any of that, because you guys know that information. And I wanted to share my experiences within the influencer space and as a Muslim and as a Pakistani, because maybe you guys have had similar issues, similar situations where you could have done something and maybe you didn't, and it's not too late to apologise. Been in situations where I could have made a difference and I didn't, and been in situations where I could have spoken out and I chose not to, and I wanted to publicly apologise for those, but I also wanted to hopefully make you guys realise that, you know, racism isn't about calling somebody something or you know, hitting or hurting them because of the colour of their skin. There's microaggressions and micro things that we do on a daily basis that we can work on and we can change. And I know a lot of my audience are Pakistani, Indian, South Asian or Muslim, and you might think, oh, you know, as a Muslim I'm not a racist, or you know, as a brown person how can I be a racist? But there are things that we do, and I'm hoping that this video might, by being open and honest about my experiences, I'm hoping that it might shine some light onto situations where you acted in a way that maybe you shouldn't have and you didn't realise, and now you can reflect. And hopefully that if we all start reflecting on instances where we could have done better, it means that moving forward we will do better. You know, we could be a positive change and a positive force in this movement. Thank you for listening to me ramble. I'm really sorry that this was really long, but I had a lot that I needed to get off my chest. And I wanted to speak about all of this, and I felt like it was important. And I know it's very different to the type of videos I do normally. And I know it's very rambling. I like to be straight to the point, but I find that difficult. And I know it's very rambly. I just hope that you guys take away something positive.